Hi again, and welcome to the Big Blue Breakdown as we give you the three key matchups to watch for the New York Giants Monday night game in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. I'm Paul Dottino. Now, for those of you who were not here for this week's midweek live program, we start this one by giving you a quick history lesson. The Steelers have won 21 consecutive home Monday night football games. They haven't been beaten in that scenario since the Giants beat them back in October of 1991, 23-20. The Giants haven't been back to Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football since. Jeff Hostetler was the quarterback that night for Big Blue. Rodney Hampton ran for 96 yards. Mark Collins had an interception return. Yep, it was a big night for the Giants a year after they had won Super Bowl 25. But this is now 2024. The Giants didn't perform nearly as well last weekend in their very disappointing 28-3 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles at MetLife Stadium, where the Giants, quite honestly, have had trouble putting good performances on the field at home. So they're 2-5 as they go into this game. Pittsburgh, well, they're 5-2. And as we look at some of their numbers, they come off of a two-game winning streak, having beaten the Raiders on the road 32-13 and the Jets at home 37-15 in prime time this past week. Now, let's talk about the state of the Giants real quick, because obviously they've got a bunch of injuries, and it does look like a couple of the key guys who were banged up are going to play, so it may not be much of a consequence. But as we get ready for this game, and the Giants will have a Saturday practice because the game is on Monday night, but this is Friday, and we're telling you what we know right now. Jalen Hyatt's working with sore ribs, but he's out there. He's expected to play. Brian Burns and Bryce Ford-Wheaton have been limited. Burns with a groin and an Achilles, Ford-Wheaton with an Achilles. But they've been limited, and both are likely to play. Guys who have not practiced this week: Cordell Flott with a groin. He looks very iffy. Jamie Gillen with a hamstring. I'd say the odds aren't good for him either. Trey Hawkins with an ankle. Odds don't look too good for him. Adoree Jackson's dealing with a sore neck. I don't know what his odds are either, but they don't sound too great. Dexter Lawrence has a sore hip, but much like last week, gets those veteran days off. He played, had a couple of sacks again. Yeah, you can count on Dexter Lawrence playing against the Steelers. He has said as much. And special teams linebacker Ty Summers is nursing a sore ankle. Don't know exactly how serious that is. So that's a quick look at the Giants injury report. And as far as the Giants are concerned, the mood in the locker room is pretty simple. They know they've dug themselves a big hole. They're 3 games under 500 with 3 games to go before the bye week. One would have to believe that if they can somehow win 2 of the next 3 games against Pittsburgh, Washington, and Carolina to get to 4-6 at the bye, they'll still be able to doggy paddle and somehow try to make something out of the second half of their season. But it all starts with one game, and that's Monday night against the Steelers, a very formidable foe. And we'll get into them now. Averaging 23 points a game on offense and only 14 points a game allowed on defense. 16th in the league on offense and 2nd in the league on defense. Now, we talk all the time about trying to get off to a good start. Well, you better do it against the Steelers. They have scored at the end of the first half on 5 of their 7 tries during this season. Think about that. Going into the half with a score 5 out of 7 times. That has given them significant momentum. Now, why do I say that? Because the proof is in the pudding. In second half of games this year, they've outscored their opponents by a combined 104-36. They've been dominant coming out of the break. And when you look at the quotes coming out of Pittsburgh, the players talk about getting a score going into halftime, and that somehow builds up their energy flow, and they just take it into the second half and start rolling that snowball downhill. So for the Giants, you need to pay attention to that. Don't give the Steelers a spark in the final 2 minutes of the first half. Now, last week, Pittsburgh made a change at quarterback, and we go to the state of the Steelers in this segment. Russell Wilson played against the Jets as Justin Fields was put to the side simply because Coach Mike Tomlin said he wanted to get a better read on the two quarterbacks before they enter the second half of the season and figure out who they're going to go with to give them the best chance to win during the playoffs. Wilson responded with a 16 of 29 performance for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns, and quite frankly, looked very good doing it. Wilson knows he's playing for his job. If he has another significant game this weekend against the Giants, one would have to believe that Tomlin will then make sure he's got the ball as the number 1 QB during the second half of the Steelers season. So there's every incentive for Wilson to come out as he did the other night against the Jets, although it was really a strong second half that provided the impetus for his headlines. You'd have to believe he's going to try to do everything he can to have a terrific night against the New York Giants. Now, what's interesting to note about the Steelers is that they don't make mistakes. They are +9 in turnover ratio on the season, second best in the NFL. 9 interceptions and 4 fumble recoveries, only given up 1 interception and lost 3 fumbles. They are fundamentally sound. The Giants players have told us that the Steelers, that is, their defense specializes in punching out the ball. So they're a team that will not only play you tough, hard, physical, through 4 quarters, but they're not going to beat themselves, which of course is something the Giants have done a lot of. We illustrate that by telling you the Steelers on offense have only had 7 drop passes as a team all season long. The Giants have 20. They are now second in the league to the 22 drops by the Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh is tied for 22nd most drops in the league with 7. Believe it or not, George Pickens, their outstanding wide receiver, actually leads the Steelers with 3 drops, although he has caught 31 passes as their number 1 threat, as their ex-receiver. But again, I tell you all of this because the Steelers will not beat themselves. You've got to take it to them. Now, there are a few key injuries that we should mention for Pittsburgh going in, because the reports out of the city are telling us that starting center Zach Frazier, a rookie and their second-round pick, is not going to play because of an ankle injury, and that their third edge rusher, because every team likes to go at least with a 3-man rotation, 4th-round pick Nick Herbig with a hamstring injury. Frazier has an ankle. Herbig has a hamstring. Again, the reports out of Pittsburgh say he's not going to play against the Giants. So those are 2 significant injuries that those in the Steel City are talking about for guys who should have seen an awful lot of playing time against Big Blue. Cordarrelle Patterson. I get tongue-tied a little bit, especially with this allergy. Cordarrelle Patterson, one of the league's great all-time kickoff returners, has been down for a couple of weeks with a bad ankle. It seems at this point unlikely that he's going to play. But is that really of any consequence anyway? Because the Giants, as a matter of strategy, prefer to kick the ball through the end zone and create touchbacks for the opposition. In fact, only 5 kickoff returns have been logged by Giants opponents this season, as they continue to tell whoever their kicker is, whether it was Gano and now Greg Joseph, to get the touchback. Give the ball to the other team at the 30-yard line and just forget about any type of return. So that's pretty much the state of the Steelers. Although, let me add just a couple of other things because I do want to give you a more complete picture. The Steelers have only 15 sacks on the season. They're tied for 18th in the NFL. Giants have 31 by comparison. They lead the National Football League. So twice as many sacks for the Giants as does the Steelers defense has. We should also mention to you in terms of discipline and clean football, the Giants are starting to move up on the missed tackle list, and that's not good. They're up to 43 now on the season, an average of about 6 a game, 13th most in the NFL. The Steelers have missed only 26 tackles all season. Again, familiar with the theme of discipline. That is the second fewest missed tackles by any team in the National Football League so far this season. They will show you what they're going to do on defense and beat you with execution. They are 28th in the NFL in terms of blitz frequency. At only 19% are the Steelers. So, no, they don't have a very high sack number. But they do hit the quarterback. 46 hits on opposing quarterbacks. Giants only have 53. So despite the fact that they've got twice as many sacks as the Steelers, they only have a handful more quarterback hits. So Pittsburgh's getting there just a fraction of a second too late. But they are getting there and rattling around opposing QBs. We're going to take this quick timeout and be back with our 3 key matchups to watch between the Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. I'm Paul Dottino. Okay, back here on the Big Blue Breakdown, the 3 key matchups to watch for the Giants and Steelers game on Monday Night Football. Well, number 1, we're going to start with that injury that we told you about for Pittsburgh earlier. Remember what we said that center Zach Frazier is down? Well, that could be very good news for the Giants because nose tackle Dexter Lawrence, who leads the National Football League with 9 sacks and is tied for 4th in the NFL with 13 quarterback hits. He's going to be lining up opposite ex-Detroit Lions offensive lineman Ryan McCullum. McCullum's in his 2nd NFL season out of Texas A&M, but it's with his 3rd NFL organization. He's been with Houston, Detroit, and now Pittsburgh. Originally an undrafted rookie free agent in 2020. This is only going to be his 3rd career start in the NFL. He's only 6'5", but 300 pounds. Now, why do I mention that? Well, because he's tall and he's long, taller and longer than most centers in this league, but at only 300 pounds. That means he doesn't have a lot of meat and a lot of width on his bones. Going up against a powerful man the size of a condominium like Dexter Lawrence should be a very, very difficult matchup for him. Obviously, the Steelers are going to have to give him help on every play. So Isaac Samalu, a free agent signed from the Philadelphia Eagles, who will know Lawrence well. He's the starting left guard. I suspect he's going to be the one to provide the double team. The right guard is Mason McCormick. He's a rookie. He's fourth-round pick. I don't think they're going to want to put him in the position to help out against Big Dexter. So it'll probably be Samalu combining with McCullum to try to slow down Lawrence. That's how I see it. It is a huge matchup for the Giants. Pittsburgh, so far this season, is 9th in the NFL, running for 134 yards a game. And Najee Harris, who has back-to-back 100-yard efforts against Las Vegas and the Jets, ranks 10th in the NFL at 478 yards rushing, averaging 4 yards a carry. That's your key matchup number 1 to watch. Key matchup number 2. Right quarterback Tay Banks, who's been traveling with number 1 receivers 84% of the time for the Giants this year, the most of any of the traveling or shadowing corners in the league, against George Pickens. Pickens is big, long, strong, physical. 9th in the NFL at 474 receiving yards on the season. And he's got 2 100-yard games, one against the Colts, last week against the Jets, 5 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown. He only has 1 touchdown on the year, believe it or not, but he is averaging over 15 yards a catch. He will fight you, and a 50-50 ball is basically 95-5 his. This is a great challenge for Banks. In some ways, it reminds me of the challenge that he had when he shut down DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks a few weeks ago. We will see if he's up to it. Banks, of course, as you guys know, had been publicly admonished by his coaches over the last couple of weeks about having a couple of plays against Dallas and then against Philadelphia where he wasn't all out 100% on the effort, at least what it showed on film. Banks has addressed it. He has taken accountability for it. Dexter Lawrence said as a co-captain, he made sure that Banks knew about it in front of the team. Coaches have also said their piece, and Banks says he understands, and he's going to move forward and try to grow from it. He is only a second-year player. For the season, Banks has 32 tackles and is second on the Giants with 5 passes defensed. Our third key matchup to watch. T.J. Watt. Watt's going to be rushing from the left side of the Steelers defense practically all the time. They don't flop him and Alex Highsmith around. You know where they're going to be. You just have to stop them. So Watt from the left side of the Steelers defense, either coming off the edge or maybe even moving a little bit in, against right tackle Jermaine Illuminor, who has a sore groin but says he's going to play. Illuminor gave up his first sack of the season last week against the Philadelphia Eagles when he was beaten off the edge. You may see some chips, possibly. I expect the Giants, if they're going to use an extra tight end, or even just one tight end in line, Bellinger or Johnson, I would think they might want to help out on the left tackle side with Azudu against Highsmith. So I don't know how many times you're going to see an extra chip there from a tight end as Illuminor goes up against Watt, which may be part of the responsibility to right guard Greg Van Roten, who had a tough game against the Eagles last week. And now he may have to pick up some of the issues against T.J. Watt. Giants could also use a running back to pick up some of that pass rush. Tracy tried to cut one of the pass rushers last week against the Eagles, and it did not work. Now, as far as Watt's concerned, Well, his numbers are a bit down. 26 tackles, 4.5 sacks. But he is tied for 5th in the NFL with 8 tackles for a loss, tied for 6th with 12 quarterback hits, and 2nd in the NFL in forced fumbles. Yes, the Steelers are very big at punching the ball out. So those would be your 3 key matchups to watch. Now, as far as Watt is concerned, he is one of those few pass rushers that you don't necessarily want to run at. Usually you can help neutralize a foaming at the mouth pass rusher by running at them. So far this season, teams have averaged more than a yard a carry when running around to the other side and running more at Highsmith or to that sideline than running toward Watt's edge. How do you know that? Well, partially by the fact of the tackles for a loss. Because TJ Watt is a double trouble defender. He plays the run extremely well. He is not just a one-dimensional pass rusher. So I needed to make sure we got that in there on matchup number 3. Well, those are your 3 key matchups to watch as the New York Giants take on the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road on Monday Night Football. We will be back on Tuesday as we examine our game balls and gassers for the Giants' offense, defense, and special teams here on the Big Blue Breakdown. I'm Paul Dottino. So long, everybody.